Hey everybody, welcome back. We're doing section 3 today, so go ahead and get your notes out and let's get started. So we're really shifting away from the Renaissance today, and we're going to start the Protestant Reformation. Now, it's important to note this was a time of uncertainty. Education, reform, and questioning the church were really coming into the spotlight and really changing how people viewed the church and even by extension, the world around them. So, some causes include a bunch of Renaissance ideas, mainly the idea of being humanist and being more worldly. Now, secular issues were coming up, again, politics, wars. We've talked about those before. The printing press really helped with the spreading of information, and we've talked about this as well. The clergy at the time was extremely corrupt. They were collecting wealth for themselves, fees that they shouldn't have, and indulgences or pardons for sins committed. Essentially, you were buying your entry into heaven, as you can see from these examples of new indulgence coupons that you could buy. Now, realistically, and we've talked about these two gentlemen, John Wycliffe and John Huss, last semester briefly, but they started to question the authority of the church and were against the church's wealth. Wycliffe was also the first to translate the Bible into English. Erasmus, who we've talked about previously this unit, was attacked for corruption within the church, and he was very much viewed negatively by people. And John Huss of Bohemia was criticized. The wealth of the church was burned at the stake for those thoughts. Now, a catalyst of change. Martin Luther, this lovely gentleman right here, was a German monk and professor of theology. And in 1517, he posted the 95 Theses on the Wittenberg church in Germany. And this was mainly versus Tetzel, another religious figure that he was against. And the 95 Theses outlined his arguments against the church. Essentially, he rejected Roman authority and he began the Reformation, or a movement for reform within the church. Now, the 95 Theses included things like stopping the selling of indulgences, restricting the clergy to what they had been doing in terms of collecting wealth and stuff, limiting that on them. Now, the response in 1521, and mind you, this is still the Middle Ages. It takes time for things to get from one place to another. So it took 4 years since he posted the 95 Theses for Pope Leo X, to excommunicate Luther. But Charles I really don't know my Roman numerals today. The fifth was a diet or a meeting of the German princes in Worms, refused to recant and was declared an outlaw by the German princes. Now, as also came with this was the establishment of a new church led by those who had become Protestants because they were protesting the church. And they protested papal authority. And essentially, these are Christians belonging to a non-Catholic church. So think about this for a second. Why did Martin Luther refuse to recant? Now, it may simply be he didn't want to go back on his ideas. He was very strong in his ideas, and he was very hesitant to let anybody convince him otherwise. He was also one not to back down from a challenge, so that may have tied into the situation as well. Now, the Protestant teachings was justification by faith alone, saying that the Bible was the only source of truth. People can read and understand the Bible and come to those decisions and determinations by themselves. And salvation comes only through faith in Christ, not the purchasing of indulgences or any of these other things that priests had been saying, well, you could do these to get to heaven in exchange for giving us money. Protestants rejected that notion and went under the idea that, well, just simply knowing and understanding the Bible and understanding your salvation comes through your faith, not your pocketbook, was key to their movement. So the results. Ideas spread throughout Germany and Scandinavia especially. The Reformation was extremely based in Northern Europe especially, and it brought in a lot of national loyalty questions. And it wanted to rid themselves of church and Roman rule. There was actually a peasant revolt, especially in Germany, that really went against Charles V. Now, the Peace of Augsburg in 1555 essentially decided that a prince could decide which religion to follow in the land. So here we see realistically Germany split into two different groups based on which religion they decided to follow. In the north, you had your Lutherans. Yes, there's a religion named after Martin Luther, those that directly followed his teachings. And in the southern part, majority of Germany remained Catholic at the time. Now, in Switzerland, Ulrich Zwingli, who was very pro-Bible and was against a lot of these rituals, started to get Switzerland's Reformation going as well. We also have people like John Calvin and his own movement, Calvinism. Now, this became popular in Germany, France, the Netherlands, England, and Scotland. Calvinism and John Calvin were actually really inspired by Luther. Calvin really didn't get started until long after the 95 Theses had already been posted. Actually, in 1517, when the 95 Theses was posted, Calvin was 8 years old. He was a child. Now, he wrote the Institutes of the Christian Religion, and he was extremely persecuted. He was chased through the countryside, and he actually had to escape to America to save himself. And there were a number of rebellions that started as well due to his thoughts, some of which led to a lot of changes in Europe. Now, also went against St. really wanted to see that sort of thing change. And he also went against the idea of predestination, in which God determined long ago who would be saved. He didn't like that notion. He also wanted to set up a theocracy in Geneva, or a government run by the church leaders, essentially leading the idea of hard work, discipline, thriftiness, honesty, and morality. Now, his impact established the Presbyterian movement, the Puritan movement, and the Reformed Church itself. And that's it for notes for today. So what you're going to do now is there's a Stanford History Education Group packet on Martin Luther for you all to read and complete. I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.